Welcome to San Gabriel Unitarian Universalist Fellowship's Sunday morning service, whether you're watching it on Sunday or not. It's Friday afternoon as this is being recorded. Thank you for being here with us. It's me and John in the sanctuary. He's the cameraman. I hope this will be a time for you to forget about your troubles, although I'll probably remind you of some of them, but to know that you're in community. And we're all going through this, and we will come out of it together. The chalice lighting words were written by Reverend Charles Edis, who was my supervising minister when I was an intern. May the world that is one in its life, a rich blue top, spinning in the endless night of space, a world that is one in its interdependence and fragility, be one in our hearts and minds and deed also. Please join me now in singing our opening hymn, number 112, Force of Habit, titled Do You Hear? It should be there for you to view. words were written by Dorothy Day, a name that will be familiar to some of you, and they are titled Commitment. People say, what is the sense of our small effort? They cannot see that we must lay one brick at a time, take one step at a time. A pebble cast into a pond causes ripples that spread in all directions. Each one of our thoughts, words, and deeds is like that. No one has a right to sit down and feel hopeless. There's too much work to do. Normally at this point, I would ask you to join me in the words of the affirmation that you say every Sunday in this space, and not in this space. However, today's a little different. The affirmation will be sung. So enjoy this special moment. Well, now I think that our Director of Religious Education, Karina Whitaker-Lewis, will magically appear to you, and she has the Wonder Box and a story about friends who have an adventure when they are looking for something.
Record.
All right. Welcome to Sunday morning. I bet you didn't even know it was Sunday morning right now, but it is. And it's Wonderbox time. And I've got the Wonderbox right here, my at-home Wonderbox, which is very different from the one at church. This one is an old toolbox, so it's very beat up. And I would love to hear your guesses as to what might be in this Wonderbox today. We use with our wondering minds, have lots of ideas that we like to use to help us learn and grow. So I'm going to shake it so you can hear it. So that's a clue. Now let's see. Who has a guess? Iggy, do you have a guess of what might be in here? Nola, Roland, do you have a guess?
Rocks. I think it's a piece of broccoli.
A piece of broccoli from Roland. Okay. All right. Nola, what do you think it's going to be?
Tiny eggs.
Tiny eggs. So we've got eggs and rocks as our guesses. All right. Now it looks like Iggy might have a guess.
Or no. It rocks.
Rocks.
Rocks. It was very loud. Any other guesses?
Easter egg.
Easter eggs. Okay, we're still on Easter egg time. All right. Well, I'm going to open it up. And I wanted you all to see my background. I haven't even talked about that yet. It's the underground, and what's in the Wonder Box are... Can you see what that is?
Garden.
It's a shovel.
Little shovel for digging, right? We could dig in this dirt. And the funny thing is that Reverend Sandy today is going to be speaking about commitment. Does anyone know what commitment means?
I don't.
No? Nola, do you know? You have an idea?
It's when you really want to do something and you're very committed to doing, so you don't give up on it.
Not you really want to do something and you don't give up on it. Yeah.
For an example, it's like if you are very committed to surfing and a shark bit off one of your arms, you would still surf.
Oh, I know the story about that woman. She was super committed and she persevered, right? All right. Well, the story that I want to share with you all today, Sam and Dave dig a hole. And it's by Mac Barnett and John Klassen. It's a pretty nice day out. There's an apple tree. And they've got their shovels. There's a cat on the porch. And the story starts on Monday. Sam and Dave dug a hole. When should we stop digging? Asked Sam. We are on a mission, said Dave. We won't stop digging until we find something spectacular. The hole got so deep that their heads were underground, but they still had not found anything spectacular. We need to keep digging, said Dave, and I want you to look at what the dog does. And the dog is looking at things underground that maybe Sam and Dave don't know about. They keep digging. There they go. And they take a break. Dave drank chocolate milk out of a canteen. Sam ate animal cookies he had wrapped in their grandfather's kerchief. Maybe, said Dave, the problem is that we are digging straight down. Yes, said Sam, that could be the problem. I think we should dig in another direction, said Dave. Yes, said Sam, that is a good idea. So there they go in a new direction. The dog is trying to tell them something. I have a new idea, said Dave. Let's split up. Really, said Sam. Just for a little while, said Dave. It will help our chances. So Dave went one way and Sam went another. But they did not find anything spectacular. Maybe we should go back to digging straight down, said Dave. Yeah, said Sam. That is a good idea. Sam and Dave ran out of chocolate milk, but they kept digging. They shared the last animal cookie, but they kept digging. After a while, Sam sat down. Dave, he said, I am tired. I cannot dig anymore. I am tired too, said Dave. We should take a rest. Sam and Dave fell asleep. And then something strange happens. Sam and Dave were falling. Sam and Dave fell down, 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 until they landed in the soft dirt. Well, said Sam. Well, said Dave. That was pretty spectacular. and they went inside for chocolate milk and animal cookies. The end.
Anything that's spectacular, but they shouldn't have digged in that. They should have gotten the gems.
They should have gotten those gems.
They like skipped like all the diamonds.
They skipped the diamonds, but what did they get instead?
Snacks.
A bone.
There was a bone. The dog got what he was looking for, but what was
Food.
they got snacks. Was there any spectacular experience they got for their commitment?
Never dig down.
They learned some things, didn't they? But I think that interesting part where they fell from the sky, kind of like it was a magical experience, and they found themselves back where they started. That was pretty spectacular. So sometimes our commitment leads us to things that we don't even know about, that we don't even think we're going to find. We don't know what they were looking for, really. They just said something spectacular.
If I go in that, I have to go down, 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 down.
You want to go down, down, down.
And then they fell.
Yep.
Normally when you fall down.
This is true. And it looked like they were in the sky, and they came from the sky, and they were falling down, but it came, yes. Very magical and
Very weird.
unusual and weird, yes. Well, we'll talk about it more in our RE class on Sunday if you want to. You can come join me at 2 o'clock. And you can say bye to everybody because they're gonna go back to service and we're gonna leave. Bye.
Boy.
Please join me now in a meditation time. In honor of Earth Day, which is this week, it's on Wednesday, April 22nd, our meditation time today includes 2 poems by Mary Oliver. First, join me in a few moments of silence. Take deep breaths. Breathe in calm and breathe out anxiety. I happened to be standing. A poem by Mary Oliver. I don't know where prayers go or what they do. Do cats pray while they sleep, half asleep in the sun? Does the opossum pray as it crosses the street? The sunflowers? The old black oak growing older every year? I know I can walk through the world, along the shore or under the trees, with my mind filled with things of little importance, in full self-attendance. A condition I can't really call being alive. Is a prayer a gift or a petition? Or does it matter? The sunflowers blaze. Maybe that's their way. Maybe the cats are sound asleep. Maybe not. While I was thinking this, I happened to be standing just outside my door with my notebook open, which is the way I begin every morning. Then a wren in the privet began to sing. He was positively drenched in enthusiasm. I don't know why. And yet, why not? I wouldn't persuade you from whatever you believe or whatever you don't. That's your business. But I thought of the wren singing, what could this be if it isn't a prayer? So I just listened, my pen in the air. And this poem, which Oliver titles Foolishness? No, it's not. Sometimes I spend all day trying to count the leaves on a single tree. To do this, I have to climb branch by branch and write down the numbers in a little book. So I suppose, from their point of view, it's reasonable that my friends say, "What foolishness! She's got her head in the clouds again." But it's not. Of course, I have to give up, but by then I'm half crazy with the wonder of it. The abundance of the leaves, the quietness of the branches, the hopelessness of my effort. And I am in that delicious and important place, roaring with laughter, full of earth praise. I have a brief reading to share with you before I do my remarks. And this reading is taken from a book which probably some of you have, titled A Chosen Faith, and written by UU ministers John Burens and Forest Church. This is just a little anecdote about James Luther Adams, who was also a Unitarian Universalist minister and one of the most renowned theologians of the 20th century. Adams had a wonderful sense of humor. He was extremely committed to Unitarian Universalism. So one day, before he became a minister, Adams was serving on the board of First Unitarian Church in Chicago. Adams writes, "The minister had already been outspoken about local issues of racial justice." This is in the 1950s. One night at a meeting from which the minister was absent, one of the trustees began to complain, suggesting that this was politics, not religion, from the pulpit, and that it was alienating people, including him and his wife, and that both the minister and church should be, quote, "more realistic," unquote. When he lapsed into racial slurs, his fellow trustees, including Adams, interrupted. "What is the purpose of a church?" they asked. Did he want the church only to make people comfortable, only to confirm them in their prejudices and not morally challenge them? Well, no, the so-called realist admitted. Then what is the purpose of the church? The others kept asking. "How should I know?" the man said. "I'm no theologian, but you're a member here and a trustee of this church," said Adams and the others, refusing to let him off the hook. As Adams told the story, the discussion continued until about 1 o'clock in the morning, when fatigue combined with the Holy Spirit, and the man blurted out, "Well, I guess the purpose of a church is, to get hold of people like me and to change them." One trustee of evangelical background suggested that before they adjourn, they rise and sing together, "Amazing Grace. How sweet the sound. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see." That story illustrates the kind of commitment that I am talking about today. Not that I expect us all to break into a chorus of Amazing Grace, although that would be perfectly fine and uplifting even. But I want to take that word commitment apart a little. I'll take it apart a little bit right now, and then I want to give you some examples of commitment that our spiritual ancestors made over the years. And finally, I want to challenge you with specific commitments going forward. A few weeks ago, I gave you 4 words to ponder. You might remember I gave you homework. Now that, of course, you have so much time to ponder. But the 4 words were covenant, compassion, commitment, continuity. I have talked about covenant quite a bit, and I spent some time on compassion, which I believe has to be the foundation upon which we enter into covenants that we make with each other. Commitment is the glue that binds our compassion with our covenants. As I said in my newsletter column this week, we regularly commit ourselves to all sorts of things. Sometimes we make wise commitments, sometimes, well, not so much. As I wrote, we often make commitments that aren't healthy or wise, especially in times of great stress and tremendous anxiety. Oh, like right now. Alcohol, drugs, too much food. But sometimes these are necessary escape mechanisms, or can be. But I want us to consider how making wise, deep commitments, especially in perilous times, might ultimately bring us less stress and anxiousness, while also functioning as escape mechanisms in their own right. Commitment. What does a dictionary tell us about that word? Of course, one definition, as seems to often be the case, doesn't help much. The act of committing, which brings us back around to needing the same thing defined. But other words are more helpful. Pledging. Pledging. I'll probably come back to that. Or engaging oneself. If pledge and promise are definitions, it seems that commitment can be another word for covenant. But I like these three words of definition of commitment: obligation, engagement, involvement. Particularly that one, involvement. You can often learn a lot about a word if you look at its synonyms and its antonyms. For commitment, some synonyms are guarantee. I like that one. Responsibility, vow, undertaking, duty. And some antonyms include break. Irresponsibility, breach, broken promise, refusal, and denial. Those last two, refusal and denial, are particularly enlightening, I think. In that reading about James Luther Adams, the board of the First Unitarian Church in Chicago would not accept refusal of responsibility on the part of that one trustee, or denial from him about what a church should be. That board was determined to hold their member to his commitment to that congregation. Imagine a board meeting until the wee hours of the morning. Well, I mean, undoubtedly this has happened in UU congregations, but not for that reason. Probably a budget reason, something like that, right? Not for the reason that they wanted this person to stay focused on the question, what is the purpose of a church? How do we commit to anything during this time of despair and uncertainty and malaise? For example, right here at our fellowship, San Gabriel Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, our very own Social Justice Committee is facing a dilemma. How or if, but how to help those outside of our specific organization who need help. Where's that line between giving to our own institution to make sure that it survives these scary times and giving to help those out there in the wider community of Georgetown and Williamson County who are in need of financial assistance? What is the primary motivation behind commitment? Is it self-interest? Is it greed? Is it fear? I'm thinking about fundamentalist religions where fear of burning in hell is a real fear, I believe, and no doubt a great motivation for, say, pledging generously. Shouldn't the primary motivation behind our most important commitments be something bigger, something greater than ourselves? And how do we get to that perhaps too idealistic place? What have we Unitarian Universalists committed ourselves to throughout our history? Well, you know them. We have committed ourselves to freedom of thought, to progress, to the interdependent web, to the democratic process, to the search for truth, to a world living in harmony, to the worth and dignity of every person, to justice, to compassion, to spiritual growth. It remains to be seen, however, whether or not we come out of this crisis still willing to commit ourselves to all of those things. For example, is progress still a worthy goal? Is it even possible? What will that word, progress, even mean ACV, after coronavirus? Because of that long list of what UUs have committed themselves to throughout the ages, Unitarians and Universalists have taken great risks, sacrificed their lives sometimes for their ideals. It is not easy to speak truth to power. It is no simple, painless thing to cry out against the injustices of the so-called real world. Let me tell you about some of those voices. And I have perhaps already mentioned some of these folks, but it doesn't hurt to refresh your memories. Catherine Vogel, or Vigel, lived in Poland in the early 1500s. She was a noblewoman, in other words, wealthy, powerful probably, who declared that she did not believe in the Trinity, capital T, only in the unity of God, just as Jesus had. She may have been influenced by her Jewish friends. The local bishop locked her in a chapel in one of the main churches in Krakow, telling her that she would be released when she recanted her statements. She was there for 10 years. Then, apparently, the bishop gave up and had her burned at the stake. She was 80 years old. Right before she died, she supposedly said something to this effect: "Neither in this life or the next can anything evil befall the soul of one who stands loyal to the truth, as one is given to know it." By the late 1500s and early 1600s, Poland entered a degree of religious pluralism and toleration it has not known since. So perhaps Catherine's death was not in vain. A humanist named Faustus Sozzini, or we know him as Socinus, was the leader of some of these folks. And by 1658, they became known as the Socinians. They were being persecuted, so this period of toleration didn't last forever and ever. By 1658, they were being persecuted by the Polish Parliament because they would not say they believed in the Trinity. Parliament decreed that the Socinians could no longer own land, nor could they continue to have full civic and political rights. Now, most of the Socinians would have been noble men and women with lots of property and, again, fairly powerful, lots of wealth. The last of the Socinians did not die, though, until the Holocaust in World War II. And they died then also because of their religious beliefs. But let's go back just a little, a couple hundred years. In the mid-1300s, yes, the 1300s, you are hearing me correctly, a man named John Wycliffe, you may have heard of this man, translated the Bible, this was in Great Britain, into the vernacular, or the native tongue, the native language of a region. He became more and more disillusioned with the Catholic Church, which led him to some very Unitarian-sounding thinking about authority. Well, for one thing, Wycliffe wanted to do away with the Pope. You can imagine how popular that made him in the mid-1300s. Wycliffe believed in individualism and the freedom of conscience and the use of reason, issues that we UUs are still wrestling with. Wycliffe's translation of the Bible led to a new religious movement called the Lollards, which in turn led to their being labeled heretics because of their anti-Trinitarian beliefs, and all of this led to the Heresy Acts in 1401 in England. The first victim of the Heresy Acts was a man named William Sofrey, a Unitarian and a Lollard. He was burned at the stake for, quote, heretical religious beliefs, unquote. John Wycliffe was also condemned to be burned at the stake, but posthumously in May 1415. So he was dead, right? But that did not stop the church and the state from burning his books and then exhuming him, burning his already dead body, and throwing his ashes into the river Swift because he was, quote, unwelcome in the churchyard, even in death, unquote. Fast forward now to 1939, when the Unitarian Service Committee, later the UUSC, that's what we know it as now, asked a Czech artist named Hans Deutsch to design a symbol for the committee that would represent their work, which at that time, 1939, was almost entirely devoted to helping people who were fleeing from the Nazis. So Deutsch designed a simple flaming chalice. And you know that our association adopted a version that we use today, setting the chalice within an overlapping double circle. The flaming chalice is a freedom of hope and healing, but it is also meant to represent the divine light within each one of us. I have already mentioned to you several Sundays ago now, something I had not known previously to that Sunday, that in the 1700s and 1800s, in this country, in America, and I don't want to neglect our Universalist tradition completely, that's why I'm telling you this again, there was an unbelievable amount of prejudice against Universalists. They were usually not allowed to work with other religious groups because those groups regarded them as infidels. The press often referred to Universalists as criminals because of their belief that there is no hell. Public places were often closed to Universalist meetings, and Universalist testimony was not allowed in courtrooms. And just to bring us up to date about what it means when we make a deep commitment to Unitarian Universalists, I will tell you a contemporary story. And I was told this story by one of my dearest friends from seminary, the Reverend Lynn Kerr. When she was the minister about 4 or 5 years ago of the Maumee Valley Unitarian Universalist congregation in northwestern Ohio near Toledo, that congregation purchased a rainbow flag to hang outside their building, which was located on a somewhat busy road. After some discussion about whether or not the flag could be stolen, the board and Lynn decided, so what if it was? They would get another one. What was the point of their having gone through the process to become a welcoming congregation if no one knew that? On a windy March evening, right before a board meeting, they hung up the flag. Not without some difficulty because of the wind. They began their board meeting. About 20 minutes into the meeting, Lynn told me, our front doors opened and a middle-aged man stepped through, flung out his arms and exclaimed, "I'm gay!" As it turned out, this man belonged to another church where, he said, they would never hang a flag like the one he had just encountered outside the Maumee Valley UU building. He just wanted the people in that building to know how excited he was upon seeing that flag. He told my friend Lynn that he was an old queen who still struggled to find places to fit in. Maybe he would go back to that Maumee Valley church, or maybe he wouldn't, but he wanted them to know that he loved them for what they did. Can you imagine a Rip Van Winkle scenario where somehow you missed the coronavirus and all of the new rules, shelter in place, social or physical distancing, mask wearing, the closing of all but essential businesses. Oh, someone has actually done that? More than one someone. Jessica Meir, recognize that name? She's an American astronaut. She's been in space for about 7 months and she just came back. Thursday, the 16th of April. She came back. She returned to this strange new world in a few days, world after all those months. What will be worth keeping in this new world? Well, a clear line of sight. A clear line of sight, for one thing. We will have to be clearer than ever about the mission of this fellowship, this church. And during this period of time between worlds, we need to focus on what we want to be when we begin operating more or less normally again. If this congregation comes out of this awful time clearer about its mission, then I will be thrilled, and I hope you will be too. It is not yet clear to me, after 6 months of being with you, whether or not you, as a body, as a group, want part of your mission to include a strong social justice program. Or is that just what I want you to do? And thus I push you in that direction. Your mission does not have to be focused on only one thing. Your mission can be a commitment to yourselves to welcome all and to build and sustain a safe, sacred space in community, and to take your values and beliefs out into the wider world to work for social justice, for a better world for all. I am very aware of the difficulty of even making a commitment to get out of bed in the morning during these times. I respect that daily struggle we are all facing just to get through the day. I know that it is difficult to find the resolve, the will, the energy to do the most mundane of things. Nevertheless, I am asking that you do more. That together we find the strength, the desire, the passion to give more to San Gabriel Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. We need now, more than ever, to commit to making this organization even stronger than it was when disaster struck. To that end, we are probably going to go ahead with our annual pledge drive, which you would normally be in the middle of right about now, here in mid-April. And to that end, I and others are going to work hard to build up a pool of volunteers so that your nominating committee won't have a panic attack every year at this time when it tries to find people to fill board and committee positions. To that end, I will talk and talk and talk about what it means to serve a congregation, what it means as a spiritual practice. I hope you will accept my challenge of serving in some capacity when I or someone from the nominating team asks you to do that. To that end, we are building and stoking the fire of commitment. One of our hymns has that title, The Fire of Commitment. We sang it in this room on Sunday, March 8th, the last time that we met in this sanctuary together in person in a live event. And I'll return to the words of that song in just a moment. Before I do that, I want you to remember the story of Sam and Dave digging that hole in the Wonder Box story. They did not end up where they thought they would. They were looking for something spectacular. And there was something spectacular where they were digging. Diamonds, big diamonds. The readers and the listeners of the story knew that there were diamonds, but Sam and Dave kept missing the diamonds. They dug all around them, but they never found them. Then Sam and Dave fell down, and didn't quite end up back home, but sort of, almost. And what did they find then? something spectacular. In this case, milk and cookies. That would be pretty spectacular right now, wouldn't it? We are like Sam and Dave, digging through everyday life and the complications that are always going to be part of any organization. Digging, looking for something spectacular, which is already there. We just have to uncover it. So back to the words of the hymn, Fire of Commitment. Something spectacular will happen this week, on Tuesday, the 21st of April. San Gabriel Fellowship's very own Director of Religious Education, Karina Whitaker-Lewis, will appear before the Religious Education Credentialing Committee of the Unitarian Universalist Association to present her final requirement piece on the way to becoming a credentialed Director of Religious Education. On behalf of all of you, I send her off with our blessing. She's actually not going very far. She was supposed to go tomorrow, or Monday, the 20th, to Orlando, Florida for this final exam part. But as everything else that is happening these days, it will be done virtually. And this room, this sanctuary here at the fellowship, was supposed to be full of all of you, the people who should be here with me, to give Karina our love and support as she deepens her commitment to this church in particular and to Unitarian Universalism in general. We are with her in spirit, as we will be on Tuesday afternoon when she meets with the committee. So, Karina, please know that our thoughts and our prayers go with you. We are proud of you. We want you to carry on the fire of commitment. I give you these words to that song written by Mary Catherine Moore and Jason Shelton as our blessing to you and to your work. From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. Go in love and strength, Karina. We will have a great big party to celebrate when we are all released from our confinements. I once said to a colleague who was going through an intense time in her ministry, "Keep up the good work." She replied, "I don't know if it is good work, but it is necessary work." That is why we make commitments to this organization. We are free thinkers. We are heretics. We commit to being so. We will fight to be able to continue being so. Going forward, going into whatever the new normal might be, here's the commitment I want from each one of you. A covenant rooted in compassion, bound together by commission. By commission, yes, but by commitment. That San Gabriel Unitarian Universalist Fellowship will emerge on the other side of this crisis stronger and better than ever. Not only does it survive, it thrives. Commit yourself. Please join me now in singing the closing hymn, number 168, One More Step. Our time is finished, but our work is not done. May our spirits be renewed and our resolve strengthened as we meet the challenges of the week to come. This chalice flame is extinguished until we ignite it again with the spark of our communion. The closing words are those of Adrian Rich. My heart is moved by all I cannot save. So much has been destroyed, I have to cast my lot with those who, age after age, perversely, with no extraordinary power, reconstitute the world. May it be so. Blessed be all men. Go in peace.